As we've been reporting, Russia's civil aviation authority says Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder of Russia's Wagner mercenary group, has been killed in a plane crash north of Moscow. There were no survivors from the jet, which came down 30 minutes into the flight from St. Petersburg to the capital. 3 pilots and 7 passengers were listed on the manifest, including Prigozhin's top commander, Dmitri Alperovitch. A channel on Telegram linked to the Wagner Group also says Prigozhin is dead. The crash has sparked mixed reactions on the streets of Ukraine and Russia. Once a close associate of Vladimir Putin, Yevgeny Prigozhin founded the Wagner mercenary group in 2014. The former caterer became well known when Russia invaded Ukraine, recruiting thousands of convicts to fight for the Kremlin in the war. Prigozhin promoted his successes on social media and called himself a self-declared enemy of the military establishment, often criticising its strategy.
After we handed over the flanks, it was not a tactical retreat. To put it mildly, it was simply a desertion of the Russian Defense Ministry units from the flanks.
It came to a head in June when Prigozhin led a brief mutiny that saw Wagner forces take control of a southern Russian city before his troops set out towards Moscow. President Putin has called it an act of treachery, and the revolt was quickly diffused. Prigozhin and some of his fighters left for Belarus, and the criminal case against Prigozhin was dropped. He then largely disappeared from the spotlight. But in late July, Prigozhin was photographed showing him in St. Petersburg. More recently, the 62-year-old appeared in a video which he suggested was shot in Africa, where Wagner operates in several countries. So this plane crash north of Moscow comes on the same day that senior Russian general was reportedly sacked as the chief of the Air Force. The top general linked to Prigozhin has not been seen since the Wagner mutiny 2 months ago.
Would Putin have done this? Well, he has certainly the Russian security forces have a history of poisoning people at home and abroad, and political opponents or people that Mr. Putin has previously called traitors. And he has, of course, called Prigozhin, well, he's called some of them traitors.
Prigozhin used aliases, or rather people who assumed his name in order to travel, as part of his security measures, in order to obfuscate his travel plans and to conceal where he actually was. And of course, this is somebody who took his personal security very seriously, even before he made himself a marked man by marching on Moscow this year. So let's not be completely surprised until it's absolutely 100% confirmed if Yevgeny Prigozhin, the real Wagner boss, doesn't actually pop up somewhere else.
Now, Dmitri Alperovitch is chairman of the Silverado Policy Accelerator, a geopolitics think tank. He joins us now from Washington. Welcome to the program. How surprised are you about what's happened, and how certain can you be that Yevgeny Prigozhin is in fact dead?
Well, as with everything in Russia, you can't be certain of anything, and everything is clear as mud. Certainly, there are indications that the passenger list contained his name and the name of his right-hand man, Dmitri Alperovitch, who actually founded Wagner on behalf of Prigozhin, who was the real warrior in Wagner, and several Wagner personnel. So it's quite possible that he is dead, probably likely that he's dead, but we can't know that for sure today.
And how much of this can be traced directly to Vladimir Putin?
I would not assume necessarily if this is indeed an assassination of Yevgeny Prigozhin. There's still questions about that. I would not assume that Putin is necessarily responsible. Prigozhin definitely had a number of enemies, not least of all is the defense minister Shoigu, who he actually launched this mutiny against. The rivalry between them was legendary. The one thing I'm certain of is that this plane did not go down because Prigozhin forgot to change the oil.
What is Vladimir Putin's assessment right now of his authority, the integrity of his leadership, given everything that's taking place in that region right now?
Well, Vladimir Putin has certainly been weakened by this mutiny. The fact that he had to come out 13 hours, by the way, after the start of this mutiny, declare Prigozhin a traitor, tell his military to stop Wagner, and then to see nothing happen. In fact, I was in Kiev last month where they told me that they had information that Russian combat pilots took off with orders to bomb the Wagner column at that time and refused to follow orders. So there's no question that Putin's authority has been diminished significantly since then. An incident like this might help to restore it. Even if Putin is not behind this, certainly everyone in Russia is going to assume that he is responsible, and that could help him.
Do you have a sense of how this is being digested in Russia?
So right now, people are still trying to process it. Certainly a lot of accusations are flying that this is indeed the state that was responsible for killing Prigozhin. Certainly everyone is aware that there has been a small crackdown on people that have supported Wagner, like General Surovikin, probably the most competent general that we've seen Russia field in this war, who has been placed initially under arrest, now seems to have been dismissed. So people understand that Putin did not like this mutiny one bit. He certainly thought it was a challenge to his power, and he tried to respond to it in some ways.
Will they be cowed now, seeing what's happened, and perhaps more likely to submit to Vladimir Putin's power?
Certainly, if that remains to be the case, that people still would assume that this is a retaliation from Putin or his security services, then fewer people will consider it to be in their health interest to launch a coup against Putin. That is certainly the case, that he could strengthen himself in the near term. But it could also backfire on him, because Prigozhin had a lot of support in the military and military intelligence. There could be a lot of people that are very unhappy to see this right now. And we don't know what Wagner is going to do. He still has thousands of forces that have spread out across Russia. They could start a rebellion of some sort. So it's still very, very uncertain.
What is Wagner going to do if indeed its leadership has been killed?
So the important thing to understand right now is that Wagner was not one man. In fact, Prigozhin was not even the most important person in Wagner, but Dmitri Alperovitch, as I mentioned, is the one that founded it. But now it has a range of field commanders that have been fighting all over Africa, in Niger, and Mali, and Sudan, and elsewhere. Some of them are in Belarus too. And those are the people that are to watch right now. What are they going to do? Are they going to continue the organization, perhaps with another leader in place? Are they going to join the Russian military more formally? Are they going to continue to operate in Africa? That's the open question right now.
How much of that depends on Vladimir Putin himself?
Certainly some. If he extends his hand to these people, if he offers them lucrative opportunities, look, I think they're very likely to take it. In fact, he tried to do something like this. He met with Prigozhin right after that mutiny the following week, and his commanders. He tried to tell his commanders, by his own accounting, that he wanted them to join up with the Russian military, formally sign up. And he said they refused because they were looking all at Prigozhin. And now that Prigozhin is out of the picture, they may reconsider.